apartment 3. Vampires have a midnight bee. Mummy's jogging with his bandages loose. Frankenstein's charging his phone with the lightning boost. Oh, the neighbors are strange, but they're kinda cool. A ghoul in the pool, zombies breaking the rules. Don't mind the creaks or the occasional roar, 'cause there's more monsters next door. Invisible man keeps stealing my fries. Creature from the lagoon's got chlorine in his eyes. Dracula's mirror is cracked, no reflection to see. And the skeletons DJing at the local spree. Spiders in the mailbox, bats in the tree. A haunted house party every night for free. Oh, the neighbors are strange, but they're kinda cool. Ghoul in the pool, zombies breaking the rules. Don't mind the creaks or the occasional roar, 'cause there's more monsters next door. More monsters next door. More monsters next door.
Wow, great introduction there from Howard. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Dennis Russo with Critical Blast, and I have the pleasure of talking today with the wonderfully talented Candice Night from Blackmore's Night to talk about her music, her new solo album that's not out now called Seaglass. So Candice, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to see everyone. I see people already writing in, so from all over the world. So
Uh,
just say hi to everyone out there. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and thanks for having me today, Dennis.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I first started following Blackmore's Night after release of your first album, Shadows of the Moon, back in '97, and I was still living on the island then.
Okay.
Um, when I saw it, it just looked like an album that I would just love. Always been a fan of Renaissance music, the whole time period, and everything. And little I know the album would blow me away the way that it did. I absolutely loved the album. Um, Renaissance Fair, I listen to probably once a week at least
Okay.
because it brings back so many memories of me,
Yeah.
for me, Tuxedo, New York, and all the Ren fairs on Long Island.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was just wondering, have you always been a fan of the Renaissance music and time period?
Well, it's interesting that you lived out here and you still had your finger on the pulse of Renaissance, because I, from living out on Long Island, and I'm born and bred here, Long Island, raised from Hop Hog originally. But as you probably know, there's not a lot of exposure to Renaissance music or medieval music, except for at the fairs, which are amazing, and that's definitely my sort of foot through the veil and in through the door of another time. But I was originally introduced to the specific music of that time period by Richie, who, when I met him, that's all he listened to. So, and back then he had tape players in his car, and I would go up to visit him. He lived in Connecticut at the time, in this very dark Tudor house with a minstrel's gallery and a lot of wood inside. And it was in the middle of the forest up in Redding, Connecticut. Not a lot out there, not a lot going on in Redding, Connecticut. There's the Reading Roadhouse, and that's pretty much it, and he had his house way back in the forest there. So I would walk in and hear this music playing on the sound system, or he'd listen to it in his car. And it was in those moments that when I was visiting him up in Connecticut and I was looking out the window, seeing this forest around us and the deer eating on his front lawn, and the snowflakes coming down, and it was just so beautiful and such a beautiful visual. And hearing that audio matching with the visual, it was the perfect marriage of sight and hearing. It was like living in a movie at that time. It just, everything fit, the pieces fit in so perfectly. And it really did transport me back to another time. So it was this incredible way of escapism from the stress and the pressures of today's life. And it's always had sort of a hold on my heart ever since those early days of meeting Richie back in 1989. But that was really my first introduction to Renaissance music, besides Greensleeves, which I used to play on the piano when I was being taught piano way back, even earlier than Richie. That, I guess, was my first introduction to it. But for the whole world of that Renaissance and purist medieval music, that I have to credit Richie for. I never heard it before him.
Well, that's awesome, though. Because, like I said, it's not, again, Long Island's not the hotbed of Renaissance, even fairs and music. So I was just wondering how that came about. I mean, for me, it was listening to Jethro Tull and Songs from the Woods.
Yeah.
So, and seeing them live all the time. So that's what I grew up listening to. So it was like, oh, yeah. I mean, your music was just a perfect fit.
Oh, and as you're saying it, I can hear Songs from the Wood playing in my head. Or The Minstrel in the Gallery, or oh my God, brilliant, timeless music. Actually, we're very lucky to have Ian as one of our close friends with a music industry background. Richie isn't that connected with a lot of people in the industry, but Ian's definitely somebody that we check in with, and he checks in with us every once in a while. And it's so nice to be able to have someone so in tune and so brilliant musically as a close friend. And as you probably know, we had him play on our first album, that album you're talking about, the flute on Play Minstrel Play, which was absolutely perfect. And I still get goosebumps when I hear his part, still to this day.
Oh, it is. It's an awesome song. And to that vein, any chances of future collaborations with Ian or other musicians of that era, that time?
Well, Richie's been talking recently about some collaborations, which is very exciting. I can't give away too much because it's still in that phase of just basically sitting in the den, while we're playing or writing and just going, like still thinking about it. It's still seedlings, but so nobody, like, we haven't even reached out at this point to anybody, but there are definitely feelers, as far as we're concerned in possibly inviting in and getting a couple of people involved in maybe some of the projects that we're talking about for the future. So I can give you that little dangling carrot for the future, but I'm sorry if I can't give you any more than that.
Oh, that's a tease. That's a wonderful thing to look forward to and keep the eyes and ears peeled for.
Yes.
So, being then that didn't have a great influence on Renaissance music growing up, what did you listen to growing up, and where did you go to listen to music on the island?
So growing up, okay, so my parents, so of course I'm old. So my parents are from, like my dad was born in 1937. I lost him in 2018, but so he would listen to, being born in 1937, he would listen to big band sounds. So I kind of grew up with him listening to Benny Goodman. Just enamored with, letting me hear Gene Krupa playing everything across the tables and everything across the room, that amazing drum sound. Artie Shaw, gosh, just so many of the big band sounds, that trad jazz sort of thing. Chattanooga Choo Choo, I could think of all of these songs in my head. My mom she would listen to show tunes and instantly break into song, which I guess is where I get it from with my children. I do that to them all the time and still annoy them now that they're teenagers. I do that. But, and then she would listen to, my gosh, Elvis, or, a lot of things from the 40s and 50s. So that's when I was in the house, that's what I would be listening to. Don't forget, I met Richie when I was 18 and basically moved out of the house by the time I was 21. So in these days, and now having a 15-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old son, I'm like, don't do that. But it was a different time back then. And I would listen to basically a lot of Stevie Nicks music, Stevie Nicks songs. But I had so many different things I would listen to. My gosh, in the 70s, it was it was Neil Diamond, and it was Kenny Rogers, and it was, you know, whatever pop was on the radio, and Dolly Parton. So there's that little bit of country coming in there. You know, and of course the music my parents played around the house. But then as I became a teenager, it was definitely more of the classic rock vibe. So everything from Deep Purple. I was a huge Rainbow fan. Back then it was the 80s, started shifting into the, do they call it hairband music anymore? I don't know. Back then everybody had this, the guys too. So, so I would like be really interested in like that kind of music. You know, and a lot of the live music that I would see out here on Long Island, if you're familiar, but I'm pretty sure none of these places still even exist. Sparks in Deer Park. There was a place called Spit, believe it or not, that I used to go to. There was a lot of rock clubs back then, back in the day, and they would play Motley Crue, and they would play all that. That would be the songs that they would have on, you know, all the time. So Queensryche and things like that. So I have a very varied background as far as musicality and my influences. And then, of course, you know, after meeting Richie and going overseas, I would hear songs on the radio over there that were normal to play on the radio that over here in America our radio, especially back then, was kind of had blinders on. Like you could play whatever popped up in that playlist, but don't go outside of that box. Overseas, you could put on a station and you would hear a folk song next to a rock song, next to a country song, and they would be more varied. So I started listening to people like Maggie Riley, who was the singer for Moonlight Shadow with Michael Oldfield. Brilliant songs. Sarah Brightman, amazing. So again, it's just, you know, the more you start hearing more of these different genres of music, the more your musical creativity and the exposure just opens up, and the colors start coming in, and the flavors and the textures, and it just makes the world a lot more beautiful, being able to hear a lot of these incredible songs from different places you would not normally be able to hear them from here.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's very true. I believe that 100%. When you can experience all those different genres and styles and voices, it just makes you appreciate it so much more what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays we've got YouTube and we've got, you know, a lot of other things. So, you know, those influences are able to be able to come in a little bit easier. But back then in the, you know, the 80s and 90s, it was, you know, you got what you heard on the radio pretty much. And as you know, and my kids can't relate to that. They're used to this instant gratification. You press a button, you can find anything whenever you want to instantly. But we used to have to wait for those songs, you know, or, you know, that whatever came up on those playlists on the radio. But it's an amazing world now that you're able to kind of be exposed to so many different influences.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things. I grew up in Port Washington, North Shore, and of course, we only had, you know, NEW was the big radio. So you listen to what they played.
102.7, I remember.
Yep. But my favorite station, which is why I was wondering when you said you had mentioned earlier in another interview that you worked for a radio station on the island, that could the call letters be somewhere around 102.3?
That's exactly what they would be. That's right. And actually, do you remember WPLJ was 95.5 back in the day? That was the first concert I ever went to. I was caller number 9. And I
really?
Won tickets. Yes, I won tickets on WPLJ to go see Bryan Adams back in, I think it was 1985. And that was my first concert I ever went to. And that was because of WPLJ 95.5 way back going on. So look what they started.
Oh, I know. And a lot of those DJs are now on Sirius XM.
I think they are. Yeah, you can hear them. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I hear a lot of those familiar voices. I often wonder if those people who actually talk like that in real life. Could you imagine like using that voice and asking your wife to like pass the salt or something? You know, like you're hearing that voice like all the time. I don't know if they turn that on or not, but yeah, it's interesting.
Well, then again, that's why back in the day, in the early 80s, that radio station put out albums of local bands. And before they had record contracts. Just like they called it actually homegrown. And Yes, and so it was wonderful.
There was a whole show. There was a show of Homegrown that was on WBAB. That's
Mhm.
right, for 102.3. And the reason I actually, when I went to work there, I was interning there for about a year and a half. So as soon as I left high school, and I thought, I love music so much. It's literally, it's my breath, it's my blood. It's like, I mean, I would die if you took music away. It's just, it's my religion. It's like, it was everything to me. And it definitely helped me out through some incredibly difficult times. You know, the girl who basically didn't fit in at all in school, you know, who was always left out, and I would just hold my books tighter to my chest and just walk down that hallway and just, you know, get through it, just do, you know, just study, and have my headphones on when I got home and look out the window and disappear into another world. And hearing these words that other people wrote or sang that I felt resonated with me so deeply, that I would have my books covered, all my notebooks would be covered with lyric lines, not lines I wrote, but lines that
Mhm.
I connected with, that bands I heard on the radio wrote. So the whole entire, all of my notebooks were just covered with doodles of those lines that were so connected with me. And I knew I had to be around music, but I never thought I would be the one creating music, because I didn't have the confidence at that point or know anything about that. So I thought, I'll go work for something in a career where I can be around music, radio station, record company, whatever it is. I need to figure that out. And I went to New York Tech, Old Westbury. I was going to college there, and I was taking all the courses in audio recording technology in case I wanted to work for a studio, or you know, like journalism, things like that. And on the side, after, you know, as well as working my job, I would go and work internship hours at WBAB, where I was there for about a year and a half, because I was trying to, every time the semester would change, you were able to change where you were in the record company to see if that fit better, because they would always need hands-on. They would always need help in one of the areas. So I did promotions. I helped back in the day of cutting analog, you know, where you would find that sweet spot and make the cuts on the tape. I would cut commercials. I would write commercials. I would voice over commercials. I would help the on-air disc jockeys in the studios. I would help in the programming department. I helped in sales. So I was whenever it changed, that's where I would be. And it was during one of those times where I went to cheer on the people from the company from WBAB, the DJs and people who went out, who were called to play soccer with Richie and Deep Purple. Deep Purple came to town, asked if they wanted to play a charity soccer match. Our guys said, sure, we'll be there. And the story goes, Richie set up his team with ringers who would absolutely annihilate our team. I was on the sidelines in my mom's big jacket, because it was November, no makeup, and just, you know, cheering my team on. And afterwards, I was a huge Rainbow fan. So afterwards, after his team annihilated our team incredibly badly, I went over and I asked, like loads of other people asked for an autograph. And he looked up and he said, "Oh, you're a very beautiful girl," with the English accent. That wasn't the English accent, but yeah, his English accent. And I thought, wow, well, that was really nice. So I walked away. I got my autograph. That was my, you know, it was going to be my Richie Blackmore story. He said I was beautiful. Isn't that cool? And I started to walk to my car, but he sent his roadie through the crowd to find out who I was and to ask me to meet him later on at a pub. And we were talking all night long. I actually literally went right from there to school the next day, completely like exhausted, but also incredibly invigorated and renewed, because I had found someone who I could speak to for hours about paranormal and about traveling and about history and about castles and about ghosts and it was just amazing. So, you know, you find that piece of the puzzle that fits, and it's an incredible feeling. And it just happened so, like, split second, out of the blue. No, it was not planned. If you planned something like that, it would probably not ever work the way it did. But that's how we first met, and that's how we really deeply connected and just talked all night long for hours and hours about so many things that we could connect with. And that's how I met him, working for if I'm allowed to say that on another station. But
Oh, why not?
okay,
Always
it's
better
out
to
there
ask
now
for
anyway.
forgiveness than to ask for permission sometimes.
Okay.
And but look where it's gotten you. A member of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame now.
Yes. Oh my
How does
gosh.
that feel?
Huge honor. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. You know, they still have the I had never been, I mean, I've been to that complex before, but I'd never been inside that building since they made it into the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
And what an incredible job they've done in there. I mean, there's basically like 3 levels of memorabilia, and it's a true like artist's museum. The whole right now in this moment, the whole bottom floor is taken up with a Billy Joel exhibit where they have everything from you could put headphones on and listen to his early days with the Rascals. They have his old motorcycle. They have like a piano. Like they have all of these things encompassing all of Billy Joel's career. So you go through that floor, and then you go upstairs, and there's like basically things from all of these. I mean, as you probably know, Long Island just seems to be a hotbed for creativity. I mean, whether it's actors or writers or songstresses or I mean we have so many people, comedians, I mean my goodness, going back through for so long. I mean everybody from Jerry Seinfeld to Mariah Carey, Debbie Gibson, the long list that I'm blanking on at this point. Even was it Berlin wrote Yip Yip Yap Hank from out here. From who would have thought they would have wrote a song about Yap Hank, Irving Berlin? I mean, it's just incredible and like crazy the amount of stuff. Barbara Stanwyck. I mean, like it's crazy the history that we have here. So to be able to walk into that museum and go up to the second floor, and there's this great little stage and all of these glass cases with these beautiful outfits from people, Cyndi Lauper, like these incredible outfits from people that have gone throughout the ages, and they switch those things up all the time, so it's never, you've never basically seen the same thing twice. Melanie, I think, was another one, and Run DMC. There's still like all these things are still going through my head, but from all different walks of and genres of life and of music, and so to be part of that and to be inducted into that for the history for music from Long Island, again, born and bred. It's in my blood. It's in my soil. I look out the window. I've got the ocean right here, and I'm proud of being from Long Island. Ironically, when I first met Richie, he said to me, "I'm going to take you around the world." And this is one of his favorite stories about me. I must have been 21 or 20 when we started talking about traveling overseas. And he said to me, "I'm going to take you around the world because I want you to come on tour with me." And I said, "Why would I ever want to leave Long Island? It has everything I ever want here. I've got the oceans, I've got the farmlands, there's wineries, there's planetariums, there's museums, there's little theater productions. I'm close enough to the biggest, greatest city in the entire planet. So if I want that energy and Broadway and that insanity, I can go straight in for that, but I can also stay away from it and have, the history of whalers, in Sag Harbor and the American Native Americans, every place on Long Island is named after a Native American. We've got Hauppauge, where I'm from, Poquot. People can't even pronounce the names of the places out here. We go to the powwow every year. I'm like, why would I want to leave? I've got everything here. If I want to go upstate, I've got the Catskill Mountains. I don't need to leave here. And then sure enough, he took me around the world with him. And now he says, it's basically his fault because now I don't want to stop traveling because it's so amazing to be able to travel and see all these incredible places. But back to Long Island Music Hall of Fame, it's a huge, huge honor. And I'm incredibly grateful that they saw that I could, they would want me to be part of that, and Blackmore's night and Richie. So it was like a trifold induction that night. So cheers to them, because that was
Well, I can say it's justly deserved too, because the whole Richie, the band, just deserve the music that you do is wonderful. So right now I want to talk a little bit about your new album, Seaglass.
Yes, I happen to have it.
The
Props.
No, my phone was going off.
Oh, okay.
On
Oh, good
your,
stuff.
I wanted to turn it off. The your first new album in 10 years, but it doesn't seem to me after listening to it that it was an album that you put together, decided that, oh, it's been 10 years, time to write songs, put an album out. It seems to me that as it played, that it was an album put together after living that span of 10 years.
Yes, those were moments in my life over 10 years. And the truth is, I didn't realize I'm so bad. Everything with numbers, I'm horrible with. So math, I'm terrible with. Time, I'm terrible with. Anything that you put numbers into, it's just like that's the other side of my brain that just doesn't work. So when one of the interviewers said to me, "Why did you wait 10 years to put out an album?" I was just awestruck that it had been a decade since I put out a solo album. I literally had no concept of time had passed at all as far as that was concerned, the amount of time. Because of course I'm always in the now. So in that in that 10 years, my children went from toddlers to teenagers. They're now towering over me. I'm the shortest one in the house. My we did still put out some works for Blackmore's Night. We put out Nature's Light, and also 2 reissues, Fires at Midnight and Shadow of the Moon. So I'm always very, on top of every little increment and every detail of what's happening as far as artwork and release and tape transfers and mixes and remasters and like all the details and writing the liner notes and and then doing the interviews on that. So that ate up a lot of time. My dad got really sick in 2018. We spent basically a year helping my dad trying to fight cancer. That same year, Richie lost his brother to COPD. We lost our cat of 19 years. We came home from tour, sat down. I went out to meet my family. The cat walked over to Richie, put his head in his lap, and passed away the day after we got home from tour. And Richie lost his best friend, Jimmy Evans, who was in the Three Musketeers with him. He was an amazing. Tornado Evans was the drummer. So that year, 2018, was like the lost year of just absolute heartbreak and sorrow. And then 2019, I found out that I had cancer. And I found out when I went overseas, and I didn't even realize. I basically, I had this spot on my back. I went to a dermatologist. He told me it was fine. Come back in 6 weeks and they would take it out. Well, they pushed that from October all the way through. We were supposed to leave for the Rainbow, which back to back the Blackmore's Night tour in 2019 in April. And I was basically bounced back and forth between 2 doctors here, from the dermatologist to the surgeon who was supposed to remove it, every 6 weeks, telling me they were going to remove it. Oh, it wasn't ready. The cell wall was still inflamed. So I can't see it. It's on my back. But Richie is fastidious as far as watching every increment in detail, especially medically. We call him Dr. Blackmore around here. And everybody's writing in. Thank you guys so much. And so he decided before we left for tour, he wanted to come with me to talk to the doctor, and he wanted a biopsy done. And they got into it. The doctor said, it's not necessary. And Richie said, I think it is necessary. Got face to face. And I'm kind of sitting in the corner like, oh, this is not going to be good. So, but Richie got his way, and they biopsied, and I figured no news is good news. And I got on the plane, finished the rehearsals, got off the plane. My mother FaceTimes me and says, you need to talk to me when you get to the hotel. And I called her. I said, what's going on? And she said, it's cancer. And you need to have had it out like yesterday. And so now I say, do I fly back home? What do I do? And we had to find a surgeon over there because it was sebaceous carcinoma and it needed to be removed. Found a surgeon. They removed a little bit but didn't clear all the walls, so I had to be recut in the 6 weeks it took to heal. And all of this is going on while I'm doing the backup singing. They're going, don't move too much. And I'm like, come on, everybody. Trying to get everybody involved, on Rainbow, and then right into the Blackmore's Night shows in 2019. And then I came home, stepped off the plane, and went right into Memorial Sloan Kettering, where they performed surgery the very next day. So there was a lot. And then right after that, COVID. So a lot of time was eaten away in those past 10 years without me realizing it. But because so many things happened in those 10 years, it definitely, all of those songs accumulated into the songs that you wind up hearing today on Seaglass. So it's definitely an emotional journey. It was incredibly healing. It was things that I needed to, it was very cathartic to write these songs and get them out of my system. But now that the kids are in school and I was able to get into a studio and find a producer who I could work with really well, who's right here on Long Island at Cove City, who saw my vision and heard my voice, and we worked together on the instrumentation and things I would want or not want, and take things out and put things in. And you know, I felt like all of these songs came out exactly the way I would hear them in my head. And that's so important to me, to be able to put out these songs right instead of putting them out fast. I'd rather put them out right the way that I feel it in my heart and hear it in my head.
Oh, well, it's a brilliant album, and song after song, just you have a knack of painting a mental picture when you sing that it doesn't take a leap of faith to see it. Some of they have so many favorite songs on the album, but one of the ones that was really intriguing to me and really was just an emotional roller coaster was The Line Between.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration for The Line Between?
So that was a complete remembrance for my father, who literally was just the spark of life. As soon as he walked into a room, he and I were so just soul connected. And I feel like he connected so deeply with so many people. He was just so much joy. He was the one who would just have you laughing, tears, just hysterical. He was just this amazing but incredibly grounded person who I knew anytime and anytime, any place, wherever I was in the world, if I had an issue or a problem, I could call him, and he would be a voice of reason, and he would be my rock. He would be the person I could go to anytime, day or night. And so he fought so hard in that last year after the cancer diagnosis, and that the idea of that story was basically it's what happened that day when I got the phone call to come to the hospital after we were sitting by his bedside 24/7. So if it wasn't me, it was my brother, my sister, my mom. We all kind of, you know, and we basically sat at his bedside even when he wasn't conscious, where he could get up and talk to us. We all would just, instead of sitting there sad, we shared every story we could possibly think of. We laughed around his bedside. We reminisced. We enjoyed his life and spoke about it in front of him, you know, while he was in that bed. And then, of course, the second my brother was there, and the second my brother left to talk to the doctor outside, that's when my dad let go. So I think he was waiting for us. He was probably like, guys, can somebody leave me alone here? Because I just want to move on. But so even with that, it was funny. But I've had so many signs from him since he's passed. But the line between came from when I went to the graveyard and I looked around at all of these headstones, and I realized that in reading not just my dad's headstone, but the other headstones too, the people that write these headstones, it's so important. I mean, obviously you can't write, you know, myriads of stuff on there, but and all the history, but it was the birth date, it was the death date, and it was just that line in between. And for me, those two dates were kind of like the least important out of the person's life. It's that line between that was everything. That was their personality and their experiences and their, you know, their first loves and their friendships and the depth of everything that made them who they were. All their individuality was in that line between. And it just seemed so dismissive to have just a line between those two dates that really didn't explain anything about the depth of these people or this particular person to me. And so I wrote in the song about how that line between encompassed everything, their memories, your memories of them, every person that they've touched along the way, every experience, everything that they've meant to everyone, their whole entire journey was in that line between. And I specifically mentioned a few things in there that we lived through, where every Sunday he would make, breakfast for everyone in the kitchen, and he and my mom would be dancing to big band songs while he's making the eggs and doing the bagels and stuff, and he's twirling my mom around, and or sitting out here in my yard and planting rose bushes, and we saw some dark clouds in the distance. We thought, oh, we have time, and then we turned around, the dark clouds were like here, and we got drenched trying to just get everything together. But again, it's that laughter and those memories and those moments that make that person. And to make it so dismissive where it's just a line between us, I just wanted to give the gravity of what that line between actually meant, because it's that person's whole life and everything they meant to other people.
Well, you conveyed it beautifully. I mean, it's a fabulous song.
Thank you.
And another one too, it's that I like very much because there's a lot of very interesting lines in it too, was the Unsung Hero. Could that be a song a little bit maybe about mom and even you?
I wrote that at 2:00 in the morning. There are some songs that just come out in 5 minutes. That was one of them. Like, I literally got off the phone with my mom, who is actually, she spent her whole entire life fighting on the side of right. This woman is amazing. Hi, Dot. Thank you. I'm reading like what's, hi, Alexander. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. So yes, my mother, she started as a special education teacher, standing up on the side of the parents and the children who were being passed through the system, who no one would stand up for or help. And she was out there day after day, night after night, all day and all night long, fighting on behalf of these kids and these parents. So she started off with that. Then she moved into one day when Richie was having an issue with some of his management in the past. And I thought, I don't know who to call. I'm going to call mom, because I don't know who else I can call about this stuff. And as you do, you call your mom. So I called her and I said, do you mind making some phone calls for us? Because, he needs to find a lawyer. And she said, all right, let me see what I can do. And she saw what she could do, and she never stopped. And she stays on top of the accounting and the publishing and the royalties and the lawyers and the contracts. He's never had so many rights to his music as in this moment right now. I mean, every other management, everybody wants to own everything. But my mom, who works for us, who's the management of this band and has been now since I asked her to make that phone call decades ago, she makes sure that it's on the side of right, and that Richie or myself have, all the rights to our music, the masters, everything, or the contracts are done in such a way where you don't sign things away in perpetuity for the rest of your life. And she stays on top of everything. She's been out, I've seen her out in the rain when we've toured places, and we were told there were posters up, and there's no posters, and she'll get out in the rain in Italy with duct tape, and she'll just grab a roadie and say, come on, grab the posters, let's go. And they'll be outside on the streets duct taping posters saying Blackmore's Night was in town. I mean, the way she goes above and beyond, and her family is #1, her kids #1, and she just is incredible. And I always say to her, you talk to me about a contract, I glaze over right away. But my mom is in there with her little red pen and making notations and writing to everybody and making sure it's the way it's supposed to be, and rereading and rewriting. And it's incredible. I don't know. And I don't know how she does what she does. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she gets no sleep and still continues to be as fierce as the next day, whatever is needed from her the next day. But I also see flashes of her vulnerability as a mom, as a woman in this industry or in any industry. We're fierce when need be, but we're fragile too. We just tend not to show that fragility because we're always, doing our best for everyone who needs it from us all the time, 24/7. And you're constantly giving, and it's a lot. But it's amazing what you can accomplish when no isn't an option. And so I wrote this song for her after hanging up with her at 2:00 in the morning. And it just came out like that, all the words, all the music, everything at once. And then as I started playing the song for other people, they started seeing reflections of themselves in it. All these working moms or anybody really who's out there just giving giving everything they can, existing on the couple of hours sleep and then getting up with the kids, getting them on the school bus. I'm writing with my husband until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I got to be up at 5 o'clock with my daughter and get her on the bus. And it's a constant cycle and it never ends. And you do the best you can, and you don't expect a thank you. It would be nice, you don't expect the credit, would be nice, but it's really just you are the cog in those wheels that just keep everything going for so many people. And we continue to be the unsung heroes. So I think there's a lot of women who can relate to that song. So I'm really glad that came out as easily as it did.
Oh, and I tell you, and there's a lot of myself as a guy too,
Yeah.
see it in others like, oh yeah, and I'm not quoting the line correctly, but some point about a dragon will come against her and they will learn to fear her name. Oh, it was brilliant.
Yes,
I mean, like that was my mother's. Like, oh yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
A lot of the guys are seeing it in their, they can relate to it for their wives. They can relate to it for their girlfriends, for their sisters. I've had people, we were running campaigns on Blackmore's Night Memory Book, which is on Instagram. It's still open, where it says, nominate your unsung hero. Who is your unsung hero? And people sending in pictures and stories about their mothers or their grandmothers, or, the things that they've endured, or the things that they do, or the things that inspire them, to keep going, and how amazing these women are. And it's nice. It's nice to be able to read other people's stories, and it's incredible. I hope more people, not from a selfish perspective, but I do hope more people get to hear the song, because I think it would mean so much to so many people. So many women would feel recognized, acknowledged, and it's just that big moment, it's like, yes, I get it. Like, that's me too. It's me too,
Mhm. Yeah, fabulous song. Again, all the songs on the album. And I think for me too, what makes a lot of the songs so good is your use of the string arrangements in the songs are just seem to be spot on perfect. They add so much to the overall feel of the songs. Do you write the string arrangements too that go along with those? I mean, they're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. I sit down with, so there was a couple of producers that worked on this. One was Pat, because of course it took again the 10 years. So if Pat was in the house working with on some of the Blackmore's Night stuff, Richie wants to start Blackmore's Night at 3 o'clock. Pat needs to be here at 3 o'clock. We work in the studio in our off of our dungeon bar room downstairs. Every house should have a dungeon bar room, by the way. That's why my kids will have no fear ever growing up, because when you have a dungeon in your own house, like what are you gonna be afraid of from then on? But so while Pat was here, he was working on some Blackmore's Night things. This is years ago. And I would say to him, can we go in at like 1 o'clock and just, for the 2 hours before you start with Blackmore's Night? And we would get done everything we could. And then, but then Pat goes home. So when I'm here, just, wanting to work with other stuff, I plunk everything out on my piano over there, like in a very skeletal form. And then I send it over to my new producer, Brendan Keenan, who's at Cove City. And he'll come up with the orchestrations, and then I'll come in and I'll be like, okay, that sounds great, but what if we take this part out and then we add like this, this big cello sound? And then I got my violinist, my amazing fiddle player, violin player, Claire Birmingham, and she plays Scarlet Fiddler on all the Blackmore's Night tours that we do, and she is classically trained, but like on some of the songs, say for example, the Back Porch version, or if there's certain things where I needed more of like a country thing, she's from Texas, so she's a Texas girl, even though she's lived in Boston and lives in New York, and she's like all over the place. So I would say to her, okay, can we leave the classical behind and just bring your Texas to the studio, because I need your Texas today. She's like, bring the fiddle out instead of the violin. But she can do it all. And so I'm able to utilize her as far as real strings are concerned, and then sit with the producer and really kind of make it the sounds that I hear. So I do sit with them and kind of go, probably annoyingly so, go through everything that they want to, that they have in their heads. There's a lot of things I take out and leave on the cutting room floor, and then I sit and say, okay, let's add this, and the other thing, and make it the way that I hear it.
Well, it just comes out beautifully. They complement the song and your voice so perfectly throughout the songs. It just makes it so and it's just so almost ethereal the way that it plays out.
Oh, good.
Um,
Thank you. I'm very lucky to have some really good people. I think they're great producers, amazing sounds, and they once they see your vision, and hear what you're saying, it's incredible. I don't like leaving things to another person. Like I'm really bad at doing stuff like that. Even for our wedding, we didn't have a wedding planner. I'm like, they're not going to see the vision that I have, so I did everything. I'm like, but it came out perfectly, and or as good as it would, But you know, this is like your calling card to the world. These are your thoughts. These are your feelings. This is your journal entries. It makes you incredibly vulnerable. And for me specifically, I can't just let something go out there, for other people to hear it if I feel that it's substandard or I don't feel that it's right. They probably wouldn't hear the difference, but I certainly would, and it would be difficult for me to probably to sleep at night. Not that I do much of that anyway, but it would haunt me. It would haunt me. So I definitely love the way that these guys work.
well, again, just all come together so well, especially on this album, but all the Blackmore Night albums all just have that whole completeness to them. They're complete songs.
Yeah.
Uh, One of the things I found interesting was your back porch version of Angel and Jezebel.
Hmm.
How to me that was pretty old school country
Yeah.
sounding, and which was very good. I mean, I love the rock version too. It
Yeah.
was so different to hear that version, um, and just how well you pulled it off and how well it sounds. I was just wondering, is that something that you have always wanted to do like that, or would there be chances of hearing more songs done like that?
Well, I used to sing Angel and Jezebel around the house for years for my kids, just because it went into my head, and I just like it was just like a fun thing to sing. You know, I don't know, it was just like a catchy little melody, and so I would just be singing it or singing them to sleep at night with it. But so my back porch is like we have this deck out here, and we're very lucky to be right on the water and right next to the woods, so we're really surrounded by nature. And normally what we do is we have like these bonfires that are set up when we have gatherings and people coming over, and everybody grabs an acoustic guitar, and we all kind of just pass the guitars around and we sing songs and get back to that. I always say the old fashioned form of communication where you have conversations with people, where you're not doing this, you're actually telling stories and sharing. And so it's a really good energy, really good vibe out there. And a lot of these songs that are very acoustically based or country sort of based or storytelling based happen around those bonfires. So I specifically wrote Angel and Jezebel in that forum where I thought, oh, we could just basically sit outside with an acoustic guitar and it would still translate and make it work, out here on my deck in my backyard, surrounded by our friends on one of those gathering nights. And only after I went into the studio, that was the first one that I recorded, was the Angel and Jezebel back porch version. And then later on, when I was looking at the track listing, I thought, I don't have anything that's really more edgy. That except, I mean, up tempo we have Unsung Hero, but we don't have anything kind of edgier. So it'd be good to add something a little bit edgier for the track list. So I went back into the studio like last minute with my producer, and I said, let's start with with the bass drum, just like almost like a clapping thing, and then let's add some electric guitar and like kind of rock it up a little bit. So we could make it more rock and more edgy. And so that was like that was the straggler. That was the last thing I put in. I thought it was going to be a bonus track, or that they would use it for, I don't know, a hidden track or something. And instead, when I heard from the record company, they said, okay, so this is how we're going to release the songs. The first release is going to be the rock version of Angel and Jezebel. And I thought that was going to be like a hidden thing. Like I just did that, like, as a side issue, like a side note. But so I guess they really liked it because that was the first one that they put out there. But my preference is definitely the back porch version, because that's kind of more my vibe, my style.
And where did that go? Because that kind of style is not something that's really conducive to Long Island. I mean, there's
There's
never the
a country out here. I don't know. I guess it depends if you're out east, up island, like upstate. Like it depends on where you go. In New York is so vast that I feel like we have everything. We have like all walks of life here. But I don't know. I do love country music because I love story songs. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's sort of like the last bastion where you can actually hear full on, ideas and stories, and the twisted end, like the end will twist sometimes. And it's like, how are they getting lyrically all of this stuff in like a 3-minute song where you've kind of saw through somebody's eyes, lived through their lives, wound up here. Like there's so many incredible stories in country music songs that as a lyricist, I'm always kind of drawn to that kind of world and that mastery of that craft. And I mean, I love writing lyrics. It's kind of like putting these puzzle pieces together, but you want to add these flavors and these ideas. You want people to resonate with with what you're telling them, to see a bit of themselves, their reflections of themselves in what you're saying. So it's not just I'm witnessing this. I lived this. I'm part of this, and they get really emotionally involved with the story and the song that you're telling. And there's so many people in country music that are able to do that and tell those story songs. It's just as fascinating to me. I love it.
Would you say, I know it's a little bit of a silly question, but it almost sounds like you were thinking, would say that country music is like a 200-year progression of Renaissance music.
It's interesting. It could be. I mean, but here's the thing about Renaissance music. There's so many different, like I noticed when I talked to Richie about Renaissance music, there are things that we've heard over the years that are strictly played on the Renaissance instruments. I'm going to grab this one like this. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave, but happen to have them like all, as you can probably see, all around the house. Like we've got like, ta-da, but there's, all kinds of Renaissance stuff around the house. But a lot of those melody lines in Renaissance music, when you play them as they were supposed to be intended on Roush fifes and crumhorns and sackbuts and oh my gosh, there's rackets, there shawms, chamets, there's like pomards, there's all of this really big sound that was supposed to actually scare the other side. If they were fighting that was going on, wars that were going on, when they would hear this, the other side would run and get scared. And it turned into this amazing pageantry music, which was celebratory music. But if you play some of these really interesting, what we today would term riffs on other instruments like an electric guitar, you could feasibly get rock music out of Renaissance music. So it's not really the lute music. That's definitely more for, parlors and internal castle. I mean, if you go outside and you play the lute, the sound just disappears. You're not going to, you won't really hear it anymore because it's not built to project as an instrument. But definitely, in castle walls, with that bounce back from the acoustics, you'll definitely hear these amazing songs when you're playing them on the quieter instruments like lutes, for example. But I find that pageantry, bombastic Renaissance music could translate more to rock and roll music if it was played on heavier instruments, those riffs being played on heavier instruments as opposed to double reed woodwind instruments, if that makes sense.
Sure. Oh, interesting. Wonder what Blackmore Night will do down the line with some of that.
You never know.
But again, the Seaglass is a fabulous album, first song to last song.
Thank you.
Are you currently touring to support the album?
So what we normally do, what we've been doing the last year, last few dates actually, because we play very sporadically these days. We have 6 dates coming up. We have Delaware and Pennsylvania, Virginia, let's see, upstate New York, a couple of those going back to Tarrytown, which I love, that old haunted theater. There's another haunted theater in Cohoes, which I've never been to, but I'm excited about that. I believe is New Jersey too on the list. I've got to reference my list. There's 6 dates that we're doing. And so what we started doing last time was, and this is even before the album came out, the opening band, the Wizards Consort, and they're fabulous. They've been opening for us for years. And they do take a lot of the old Renaissance music and they add sort of classic rock music to it, and really, really interesting brothers. They're brothers and their bass player as well. But they're really, if you haven't seen them, they're amazing. So they'll come out and they'll play. And then I usually go out, just the girls will come out, very, very scaled down, very acoustic, very sort of personal and intimate. And so it'd be me. I'm a backing singer, Jesse Haynes. and my amazing Scarlet Fiddler. And we come to the front of the stage before Blackmore's night while they're still in the back, while the boys are still in the back getting ready. And I do a couple of songs off of Seaglass. So last time I was doing Promise Me and Unsung Hero. And it's great because whenever there are the children in the audience, say, for example, if it's my kids who are now, like I said, here, but I've had my nieces come up and they're still 4 and 5 years old. And I know Claire, the Scarlet Fiddler, has her daughter come up and she's 5, or she just turned 6 years old. And so they'll come up and they'll sing the little kid part at the end, which it's just amazing because it really brings back that innocence of youth and of childhood. And it's not like you're pushing your kids on the audience. It's like they really get to be part of those moments where you really step back and go, wow, I was that person, or my kids were that age, or and Promise Me is really sort of like an idea. It started out as being a very personal message for my children and things that I wanted for them in this lifetime, not to be afraid to stand up from a crowd and to really to be who they are and brave their own path. And that I will always, you're not always going to agree with me because I'm your mom and I can't always say yes. And that's how it goes. But I told my kids when, at a very young age, I was never a mom before you. You've made me a mom. So this is a new role for me, and we're going to learn together on this journey. I'm not going to profess to know everything. I don't know everything. I might know more things than you because I've been on the planet longer than you. And I will always try to guide you in the right directions to make decisions, good decisions for yourself. But I'll always be your support system, and I will always love you, and I will always be your friend, and I will always be there for you. And I think that's the most important thing. So it's really sort of a story song in hopes, but that those wishes and hopes and dreams go not just for children, but really for everybody. So we do
Yeah.
those 2 songs in concert.
Oh, because I was wondering. Well, and true, because it'll be November and December. Mixing in any of your solstice songs for the
I
holidays.
know we do some. Well, Richie's a funny creature. He's a funny character. Richie is here's how it goes with Richie. If you tell him to do something, he's more apt not to do it than to do it. So I have to try to figure out ways and words that work in his mindset, where he'll maybe do some of the stuff. So but again, it basically comes up to whatever he's going to pull out of his musical arsenal and how he's feeling that night. He reads the crowd better than anybody I've ever seen before. So he changes the set list. It might be the same, like 4 or 5 songs at the beginning of it, but then he switches it up based on how the crowd is. If he feels they want more partying, upbeat songs, he'll play something like that. If he feels they're all in camaraderie, he'll play something where we'll all sing together. If he feels that they're a listening audience, he'll play more of the quieter ballads or the instrumental songs. And it's interesting. It's like it's a new painting every time we play, and I can never promise because I never really know which way it's going to go. But I definitely think that that's a great idea, and I'm gonna try to sow the seeds on that one.
Yeah, because it's almost 2026. And in that, what are the plans for you and Blackmore's Night for 2026? Well, you alluded to new albums, but another tour maybe, or
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, we usually at the end of the year we usually do our fan show. That's done through our street team, the head of our street team, who's Dot Sweet, and she has been so amazing. Her and her husband Joe have been just so amazing at getting not only the animal charities for each individual area where we play, so that's really close to our heart, near and dear to our hearts. But we do usually in end of November, but beginning of December. Usually we have a big fan show where just invitation only, all goes through her, and everybody comes dressed in garbs, and we just sit and we play for hours. We take requests, and it's like being at a party at our home, but we usually do it at take over the back of a restaurant. There's a very woody restaurant or something, so we sort of have that ambiance too. So that should be end of the year. Richie and I we just wrote 2 more songs for the new album. So really the idea is now to work on when we're getting Pat Reagan back into the house so he can record the new songs that we have. So we're accumulating all of these songs that are already written. So when we go in, we're able to just go in and record them basically as is, and then just add add the fairy dust on top of it and flesh the rest of it out. So I would think that a new album would definitely be coming out. I would want to say middle of next year. If we get Pat in at the end of the year, it should work out that way, I hope. Yeah, and then I'm hopefully I was actually able to find. Now this was a chore. We wanted to put out a remastered reissue of Under Violet Moon because we skipped that. We went from Shadow of the Moon. It was the 25th anniversary to Fires at Midnight, and everybody said, "What happened to Under Violet Moon?" Well, what happened to Under Violet Moon was it was recorded in 2 different studios, one on analog tape, one on digital tape. And nobody has that stuff anymore. So I had to really do a lot of work trying to find people who could get the analog tape. Apparently you have to bake the analog tape and then you have to bring it straight to another studio where they can then do the transfer before the tape starts to deteriorate. And then the digital tape had to be done in Pennsylvania. So when we played Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, I was able to get the transfer, like bring that over to the studio in that studio. It's been like little bits and pieces everywhere, but we finally have everything all transferred and ready to go. So now it's just on the record company to do their and the engineers there to do the remixing and the all of that. So they'll send it over to us and we'll approve, and then we'll go through artwork and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a bunch of stuff coming up in the future. It's just it's kind of like all scattered, like all over the place right now, which drives me crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. And as a vinylophile, somebody I just records to me is the end all to end all. There are people that like downloads and all of those things too, but I like my records. And it's nice to see that you're starting to re-release, going back through the catalog and making those available on vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
I can't really afford them right now because my daughter spells dad ATM. So but once
Seaglass, you got Seaglass on vinyl.
yes,
So-
and that'll be the next one that I will get actually. And
Okay,
I'm
well,
not just
how
saying
can I
that because
send
I'm
it to
looking at you.
Oh my
It's
goodness, we gotta send it to you. If I knew you were a vinyl guy. So, and it's beautiful. It's literally, it's this color. It's like the color of sea glass. So if you hold it up, it's that beautiful. Like they really did.
oh, well, you don't
And the
have to send it.
artwork is, you can't, I mean, the artwork on vinyl is, you can't, when you trying to read it like this, even on CDs, everything's so tiny. I don't know. I'm a vinyl girl too. So I feel
Yeah,
like I might be on that.
absolutely, absolutely. So, with all this coming up and all this happening, how can new fans and such? How can they follow you? How can they find all things Candice Night and Blackmore's Night?
I am very, very present on all social media platforms. So, and I literally update basically every single day. So, I'm on Instagram at, I believe it's Candice.Night. So you'll see all the official things because that's verified, or there's a lot of followers on there. And it's not just me. I'm the social media girl. That's like, we've tried other people before and they're so expensive and they don't have your vision. So there's me again. Let me do it. So I learned how to do it. So I've now, yes, true. Thank you, Dot. I don't know if anybody can see this. At True Candice Night. See that? I love her. She keeps me on point. So we've got Twitter. We've got, can we get the original albums for what? I'm not sure what that was for. I'm reading the comments as they come in. We've got, okay, so there's 3 Twitter pages. We've got Candice Night, obviously it's True Candice Night, and then we've got Blackmore's Night, and then of course Richie has his own. It's like the real Richie B or something, I think, on Twitter. We've got 3 Instagram. We've got my Instagram, Blackmore's Night, and Richie's as well. I've finally got a TikTok. It took me a while, but I finally got a TikTok, so I'm on there too. Facebook, of course. I still have something on Tumblr, believe it or not, but also the .com site. So Candice Night, all one word, CandiceNight, not KNIGHT, .com, and of course Blackmore'sNight.com, and then we've got Spotify, we've got Apple Music, we're available everywhere. So it'd be harder not to find us than it would, I think, than it would be to find us at this point if you're looking. YouTube, of course, we all have our own YouTube channels. So we're everywhere. We're out there. So definitely tune in because I'm keeping it updated every day.
Awesome. And that's great information for a lot of fans out there that I'm sure just just want to follow and keep up with everything.
Yeah, of
So
course.
new people to Blackmore's Night, to Candice Night. If you were to suggest, if they were to suggest to you or ask you, what would be the first album I should buy to listen to get the real feel of who you
Ooh,
are? What would you
oh my, I
suggest?
feel like we have changed so much through the years. Um, Gosh, this is hard. I think Secret Voyage. I think Secret Voyage would be a good one. I feel like that has um it has the bombastic pageantry, it has the ballads, it has the instrumental work, it has the electric guitar, it has a little bit of well, they all have a little bit of everything, but I'm gonna go with that one just for today. I don't know. I change all the time. So but like every one of those albums it's a snapshot in time. So like
Mhm.
the very first one is like I love the songs on the first one. I love the storytelling aspect. But there's such a naivete that it makes um and it makes it so genuine for that time. But then, the next one had more upbeat songs like, Under Violet Moon, which specifically we wrote while we were in Japan because, we realized we didn't have songs to get people up on their feet and clapping along to. And that worked out perfectly. So we put that one on there. And then Fires, we put more electric guitar. And then Ghost was more orchestral. And like it's literally like a stair step. I feel like if you missed one of those steps, you kind of missed something. But the individual songs all hold special places in my heart, and so the hopes are once you come across the band, if you've never heard us before, at this point we have nearly 30 years of music to catch up on, so there's a lot. If there's something for everybody, and if there's something that you're not crazy about, the next track might have something that you absolutely love, and there's just a lot of music out there. So I would say just delve in, just jump right in.
Well, and I will agree 100% with you. I don't think that there's not a bad apple in the bunch, so to speak.
Amen.
I think whichever one anyone would start with would just lead into another, either forward in time or backwards in time.
Right.
Just please keep, I would just ask you, always keep the catalog available for everyone because it truly is. Everyone is a gem. And I look forward to seeing them and hearing them all on vinyl. Um, because again, I love to play records. I've probably spent most of my daughter's inheritance on stereo systems because I can't play an instrument. I learned very early on that I don't have an ear to play, but I appreciate people like you and Blackmore's Night who are so good at your craft and can transport me and anyone into a different realm
Oh,
that I just want to, hear it the best that it could be. And for me, that's vinyl. But for anyone, any format that they can, I would suggest. Um, well, Candace, we're almost out of time, and I've kept you way too long as it is. So I just want to say again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
oh my
Talk
God.
about your new album, things in general, and I would just like to, before turning it over to you, if there's anything else that you would like to say or tell anybody, the floor is yours. Anything that you would like to say?
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I'm reading some of these comments come in, and I don't know if I'm supposed to address them or not. I'd love to like answer
you
some
can,
of
I
them.
mean, I have no problems. You go right ahead.
I know that they were was Peasant's Promise inspired by Vaughan Williams' Fantasia or on Greensleeves. So yeah, that was one that was originally Richie. Richie brought that to the fold. That yes, it was the answer. The quick answer is yes, and I'm sure you knew the Emerson, Lake and Palmer version. That one. So we took that and made that into our own version, which was Peasant's Promise. So yes. Are you still hoping to release? I am working on that so much. My goodness, the fights that go on with these record labels that own masters after like I said, the rights have been signed away. Trying to get people to do some of this stuff has been an uphill battle, tooth and claw. We're doing our best to get a lot of them for you. So working on it. Can we get the original albums? Original
I think
albums
he's
for
on vinyl. I think he means, or she
um,
means. She
For
means,
which, for
I guess,
anything?
all the original ones. I guess she means all the original early albums.
I believe Shadow of the Moon was released on vinyl. I'm not sure about, you know what? It's a record company question, and I don't have that answer right now. I know the remastered reissue Shadow is definitely on vinyl. Winter Carols, I know I've seen on vinyl. I'm not sure about the other ones, but I will definitely request it. And tours Brazil. Oh no, but I know, I'm so sorry, Gabriel, not as of yet, but I did have a great time in Brazil when I went with Richie when he played Rainbow there a million years ago. Only place in the world I was actually able to go to an animal sanctuary and pet a tapir. So lots of amazing stories about Brazil. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Thanks,
Right.
Alicia. Yeah.
Again, wonderful, Candice. Thank you. I'll just finish by saying, the world is a more beautiful place with your music in it.
Oh, thank you
So,
so much. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you so much for listening, and I really appreciate you having me on. And we'll be sure to make some more of that beautiful music for you to enjoy. So we'll keep going for the future for you.
wonderful. Thank you. Bye bye now.
Thank you. Bye bye.